All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the House Environment and Transportation Committee bill hearings Friday, March 6th. We will start with Delegate Ivey, House Bill 1314, Natural Resources, Chesapeake Bay Trust Urban Trees program. And if you have a sponsor or a panelist, please bring them up.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Casey Wetzel joining us from the Chesapeake Bay Trust. All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Really is a pleasure to be here today. For the record, Delegate Julian Ivey here presenting House Bill 1314. I don't have to tell you all the significance of urban trees specifically and how they help the environment and air quality, so on and so forth. But I do want to speak to you about the sunset provision on the urban trees program. It's set to expire in 2031. It's something that we need to make sure does not expire, quite frankly. And so I wanted to take a moment to point out some of the written testimony that you all have. I have written testimony from Howard Works, also from Joe's Movement Emporium, which does a lot of great work in Prince George's County. We have the Baltimore County Environmental Protection and Sustainability Committee, Resilience Authority of Charles County, and the Baltimore Tree Trust. I wanted to point those out specifically to show that across the state there's wide utilization of this program. But I did want to take a moment to go over a small bit of the testimony from Joe's Movement Emporium. Before I get into that, this program, 82,000 trees, over 82,000 trees have been planted already. There is a goal of 500,000 trees, and there is certainly work to be done to reach that goal, but 1,500 jobs have been created through this program. I want to read really the tail end of the written testimony from Joe's Movement Emporium. They say, "We could not do this without the urban tree grant managed by the Chesapeake Bay Trust. It's the funding that still after 4 years, we build our entire program around. Without this funding, we would not be able to maintain the staffing and programmatic excellence our partners deserve." And I really just felt like this encapsulated the entirety of this discussion here today. Across our state, these organizations have been doing great work and they'd love to continue, but they absolutely need a further commitment from the state. And so I'm asking here for a favorable report on House Bill 1314. And I do have Ms. Casey Wetzel here from the Chesapeake Bay Trust to speak as well, and we're here for any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Casey Wetzel. I'm the Vice President of Programs at the Trust, a nonprofit community-based grant-making organization established by you all, the General Assembly, in the mid-'80s. The General Assembly created the Urban Trees Program in 2021 as part of some climate solutions legislation, Tree Solutions Now in particular, with a clear purpose to bring trees to underserved urban communities that have historically lacked them. These neighborhoods face higher heat, poorer air quality, and greater environmental burdens, and urban trees are one of the most effective tools we have to address those inequities. They improve public health, reduce heat islands, absorb stormwater, and strengthen local business districts. They make communities more livable. Unlike forests, urban canopy do not regenerate on their own. Street trees are a managed public asset. They require construction, specialized labor, and long-term maintenance. Without predictable investment, canopies decline, and the benefits that this legislature envisioned never fully materialize. Removing the 2031 sunset will ensure Maryland will meet the 500,000 tree target in the urban and underserved areas, give communities confidence in maintenance resources will continue, and create the stable market needed for nurseries, nonprofits, and contractors to invest in workforce and supply chain capacity. In just the 4 years, demand has far exceeded the available resources in the grant program, and more than 84,000 trees, we're actually up to 86 as of yesterday. Sorry for my data testimony. The program is working. Making the funding permanent will allow it to work as intended, delivering lasting equitable canopy benefits to the communities that need them most. Thank you for your consideration and for all you all do for the state of Maryland. I really appreciate you.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the sponsor or his panelists? Okay, we do have additional in-person favorable testimony from, I'm sorry, Delegate Boyce.
Thank you, Mr.
I tried to get you out of here, Delegate. but-
Sorry. No, thank you so much for the bill, Delegate. I know there are questions about, and maybe you can help answer a little bit more directly about why now to extend, and to the questions on, this why early?
Sure.
I guess start there.
Absolutely. Organizations need certainty on whether or not there's going to be support from the state or any entity that provides funding for these programs. And so we need to just show them that this is a commitment that we've made and will continue to make, that we value the work that has been done over the years and that we'd like to see it continue. So why now? It's not gonna sunset this year, but we do have an opportunity today to make it clear that this is a priority moving forward. And I know Ms. Wetzel can speak a little bit more to some of the overhead discussions taking place with some of these organizations. So I'll let you answer the question as well. But this is us showing that we value this program and that we're committed to it.
That's exactly right. And I would just add that, and I mentioned this briefly, but allowing for that confidence in the funding stream to continue will allow for a market investment from contractors, from nonprofits, which will actually bring the cost of the trees down over time. Some of these nurseries are growing certain types of trees for the first time, and they view it as a short-term investment. Some of them are hoping for longer-term investment, and they'll build out the infrastructure to be able to grow some of the native trees that aren't commercially available right now. Just as an example, some of our major contractors that are opening tree pits, for example, would love to be able to purchase equipment, but are nervous to do so, knowing that the funding is not going to continue. We think that these things will be invested in and we'll be able to bring the cost of trees down. We're already pretty proud of our cost per tree, which is about $396, but that's higher than what we had actually invested in initially. So not to get too specific into the numbers, but the 9-year investment budgeted for about $180 per tree. That's far lower than what it actually costs to do this.
So thank you, but isn't it so too that you need to kind of repair and replace trees over the years
exactly
anyway?
Right.
So you would need money beyond a deadline of 2031 because certain trees may still need grooming and pruning.
That's exactly
replacement.
right, Delegate Boyce. That's exactly right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Delegate Stein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Delegate, thanks for bringing this bill. I certainly support tree planting and should note that this was part of the 2021 version of Climate Solutions, which didn't pass until 2022, but this was carved out and did pass. My question is, are there any quantitative goals for, planting, on a per year basis? I know there's the dollar amount, but in terms of goals for number of trees planted per year or, per 5 years or anything like that?
Sure. No, the short answer is no. Obviously, we have the 500,000 sub goal by 2031, and we're making progress towards that. We're about midway through at 4 years, if everyone's doing the math, and we're at about 100,000 trees. Part of this is because of the points we were just making, which is it takes time for people to build up the capacity to do this. We're running a competitive grant program for the state. For folks working in these areas, and they're taking time to build their own capacity to do this work. It's building. So thank you for the question, Delegate Stein.
Thank you.
Delegate Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There in the fiscal note, you want this funding to go beyond 2032, and it is the CEF fund. So, and it's my wish that the CEF fund would go away. So what would happen, and where would the funding come from if the CEF fund were to go away?
It would come from the general fund, but I hope that we don't do away with the CEF fund.
My electric bill's hurting.
Understood.
Thank you.
Further questions? Okay, we do have additional in-person testimony. Laura Miller, Montgomery County Department of Environmental Protection.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and the members of the committee. I'm Laura Miller, Forest Conservation Coordinator with the Montgomery County's Department of Environmental Protection, and I manage the county's long-standing shade tree planting program. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today in favor of House Bill 1314, which will extend the current funding and codify the Chesapeake Bay Trust Urban Trees Grant Program. Montgomery County has received funding and matched it to plant thousands of trees through this program. As you know, the investments in trees and shade provide for measurable things such as cleaner air and water, reduced stormwater management costs, and lower summertime temperatures. But what I want to tell you about are the seniors who work closely with our programs who receive trees, who may now, while looking at these trees after a medical procedure, heal faster and with less pain medicine. The children who helped plant at our schools, who now see these trees from their classroom windows, proudly saying, I planted that tree, not understanding that just the sight of the trees will lead to fewer disciplinary actions for all students. Or the families we work with daily to plant big trees in just the right spots to shade their porches for family dinner or to shade their roofs for a better night's sleep. And those who live in apartments and condos, blazing hot and full of asphalt and concrete, who will now watch the benefits of their new shade trees grow. So why do we need this bill this year? Trees need 5 to 10 years to grow to the sizes needed for urban settings. In this long-time investment, the nurseries in the supply chain need certainty to provide our programs for the trees that are needed. In other words, they need to plant now for trees that are going to be planted in 2032, 2033, and so on. So permanent funding would better position us to effectively contribute to the state's no net loss of canopy goals. By every measure, this investment will pay off for the benefit of everyone who lives and works in Maryland. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. I do not see any questions, so I believe that concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 1314. We'll turn to House Bill 1315, Delegate Pruski, Department of the Environment, Vessel-Based Microplastic Particle Removal Technologies Study.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chair, and the committee for hearing me today. I am here for HB 1315, Department of Environment Vessel-Based Microplastic Particle Removal Technologies Study. Again, Delegate Andrew Pruski. The purpose of this bill would require the Maryland Department of Environment, in consultation with the Department of Natural Resources, to conduct a study of vessel-based microplastic technologies, including microplastic collection devices integrated in outboard motors and other onboard microplastic filtration systems, and their potential applicability to improving water quality in the Chesapeake Bay and its tributaries, generally relating to the study of these vessel-based microplastic collection technologies. So why this bill? Well, each of us in this room have cherished the Chesapeake Bay, our lakes and waterways. Maryland has 7,700 miles of coastline, 16,000 miles of stream that range from the Chesapeake Bay to the Eastern Shore and Western Mountain Maryland. Maryland's waterways are the lifeblood, enjoyment, and character of what makes Maryland so special. In Maryland, though, we have a problem, and it's not just Maryland, it's in our nation's waterways: microplastics. Microplastics are buoyant particles from consumer and commercial products, runoff, and other sources. These particles are mostly tiny pieces of polyestyrene. They typically float on the top of the water no matter what the weather, but they can be disturbed by movement and the environment. Microplastics are not natural. They're integrated and they impact our marine life and animals and can be digested and obviously have a terrible impact upon marine life and animals. The microplastic in Maryland's waterways come from a variety of sources, including from streams, rivers, and before that, streets and sidewalks. I won't go in depth about obviously the locations and causes, but certainly we have a problem. I want to thank you for hearing this bill today, but we do want to look at the potential to reduce microplastic pollution in the Chesapeake Bay and its tributaries. Recent technology has produced onboard motors to filter and collect these microplastics. This is encouraging, and obviously a study like this would look at it. Ask for a favorable report on a practical solution to consider emerging technology to not only save the Bay, but to preserve it, and thank you for your time and consideration.
We have a question from Delegate Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Delegate, for bringing this bill forth. But are you aware that the Pearl facility, the J.P. Patterson Park, is currently doing these kind of studies?
I am not.
Okay, we went, the only reason we noticed, we toured there this past summer and saw all the work they're doing with microplastics and stuff like that. So I'm hoping this isn't a redundance to what's already being done.
And to ask, if you don't mind, if
Sure.
I ask you, is this on outboard motors and filtration in
No.
particular, or other technology?
I don't think so. They're just checking microplastics as a whole in the waterways and the impacts and effects.
Understood. And in particular, there are boat manufacturers now that have filtration devices. That's one of the items that have come out. There's others as well. I know I was reading an article in UK and England that have actually mobile fish that pick these up. There's a lot of things that are coming out now. So again, if I'm happy to connect the resource to see.
Sure.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Good memory, Delegate Morgan. Delegate Jacobs.
Thank you. And Delegate, I just want to follow up on my colleague a little bit, Delegate Morgan's comments. And, you know, I think it's good that we're trying to study these microplastic and the impacts in the bay. But the program that Pearl had was a 3-year, $1 million study. And I'm not sure whether outboards could have been included in that, but I noticed in the testimony from MDE, they wanted $600,000 and 2 people to do the study. So hopefully you could make a call to Pearl and get information. I mean, I'm glad that you're doing that, but I just want to make sure you were aware that program was going on. It was $1 million for 3 years.
Absolutely. And Delegate Jacobs, if you don't mind to respond, the real issue here is to look at these technologies and figure out what works, right? You don't want to put something out, mandate it, push it. I know that I'm also meeting with manufacturers. If they have a patent or something that could help outboard motors, it's all about finding a way to find the solution. So I appreciate you sharing that, and we'll look into that. And obviously the bill is to start this discussion because technology is definitely emerging. And if we can clean the bay with it, we should do it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You know, Trish and the council and I, we spend so much time planning these trips. I'm so tickled that you all get such an impact out of them. This is great. Delegate Stein.
Mr. Chair and Delegate, thank you for bringing this bill. It wasn't until you brought this that I realized that there is technology for these motors to take microplastics out, which I find to be amazing. And I guess my question is somewhat similar to the ones you've gotten before, but more specifically, I mean, I know you wanted this study to be robust, but in talking with MD and maybe also with UMCs, would you be amenable to try to slimming it down somewhat to reduce its costs?
Absolutely. I mean, when I brought this bill, and I want to give actually credit to a Montgomery County resident who found this out, Suzuki, and I believe there are others that have this outboard technology. And I wanted to make sure that if there's something that, again, can clean the microplastics, because we hear from watermen, we hear from recreation and other folks that if this is going to help the bay life and whatever it may be. So if you have any suggestions, narrowing it down, I am all for that. Again, this was trying to bring an introduction piece, so I appreciate any suggestion. I'm willing to help move this forward.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Terrific. That concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 1315. We're going to jump to House Bill 1349, Delegate Weivel, Public Service Commission Implementation Plan to convert formerly operational fossil fuel generating stations. Delegate, we understand you're in a bit of a rush, so please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Vice Chair Guyton, honorable members of the committee, it's good to be back in ENT. This legislation directs the PSC, actually for the record, House Bill 1349, I'm Delegate Weivel. The legislation directs the PSC to develop an implementation plan to convert formerly operational fossil fuel generating plants in Maryland to natural gas. The bill directs the PSC to develop a stakeholder process of IOUs, co-ops, minis, and various government agencies to produce the implementation plan. The PSC is directed to assess feasibility, determine ownership, rate recovery, conversion timelines, and ascertain whether any legislation might be necessary to accomplish the task. As you're fully aware, current generation pricing is being driven by the simple market forces of supply and demand, where anticipated demand is driving up the price of generation supply. The intent of the legislation is to develop a shorter-term strategy to meet the demand. In PJM's long-term load forecast, the summer peak is projected to climb approximately 70,000 megawatts to 220,000 megawatts over the next 15 years, and PJM is expecting significant growth in demand over its 20-year planning horizon. PJM has further revised their annualized growth rate to 2%, compared to the previous estimate of 1.6% through 2029, 2039, and the demand is growing due to the proliferation of data centers, building electrification, and manufacturing, combined with the lack of replacement resources being built at a pace necessary to meet the demand. During the 2025 legislative session, the Economic Matters Committee was briefed by Maria Korsnick, the president and CEO of Nuclear Energy Institute. When asked about the feasibility of retrofitting closed fossil fuel plants with natural gas, her response was that retrofitting is definitely a possibility as all of the infrastructure is there. She further indicated that it would even be possible to consider the possibility of conversion to SMRs, small modular reactors. The timeline for SMR deployment, however, is estimated to be 10 years from decision to operation. In offering this legislation, I'm hopeful that a conversion to natural gas would be a much shorter process. It is further possible that an ultimate conversion could then be made to an SMR. It's estimated there are 5 major generating fossil fuel plants that have been closed in Maryland. In Western Maryland alone, we have 3, the R. Paul Smith plant in Williamsport, the Luke Mill Power Plant in Luke, Maryland, and the AES Warrior Run plant just outside Cumberland in Allegheny County. Others include the Charles Crane Generating Station in Bowley's Quarters and the Dickerson Generating Plant in Montgomery County. Combined, these plants represented 1,374 megawatts of generating capacity when closed. Other smaller plants have also been retired in Maryland over the years. Why natural gas? Natural gas is often described as a clean burning fuel. Natural gas is estimated to emit 50 to 60% less CO2, very little sulfur dioxide, lower nitrogen oxides and particulate matter, and no ash residue when compared to other fossil fuels like coal. I recently attended a seminar where the opening remarks were made by a nationally recognized artist, poet, and speaker, Tucker Bryant. A former employee at Stanford and Google, Bryant left the audience with the idea to, quote, do different things differently, end quote. This is what I ask of the committee, to take a serious look at doing something differently and not being focused strictly on renewable energies to meet a need in resolving energy demand for our residents and keep prices from being raised exponentially. The comptroller estimated the average electric bill in Maryland has increased 140% since just last fall. The governor, in his State of the State address, admitted that natural gas and nuclear play a role in resolving the state's energy needs. Let's be a part of the solution. Natural gas can be a part of the solution. This proposed legislation would provide the least cost path to accomplishing that goal. With that, I conclude my remarks. Please know that I'm receptive to amendments. I thank you for your attentiveness, and I had asked for a favorable report on House Bill 1349 on behalf of all Marylanders enduring such high energy bills. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. I think I visited the R. Paul Smith plant with you with Delegate Baker a couple of summers ago.
That is correct. You also have a very good memory.
Speaking of my memory, I'll just remind you that last year the Next Gen Energy Act had a streamlined CPCN proceeding that was not limited to renewable energy. So we have done things that are, I'll say, fuel neutral. Delegate Anderson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the bill, Delegate. One question, the report that's going to be given, is it going to be public so it could be peer reviewed, or is it going to be an in-house document?
No, it would be public. No, I don't know if you've read the PSC's comments or not. They're not sure that they're the ones that should be in charge of the study. They're recommending Maryland Energy Administration or some other folks like that. But that's why I said I'm receptive to amendments if the committee's interested in pursuing the matter.
I
It
had
should be
the
a public
same
document.
concern. I had the same concern.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, I do not see any other questions. That concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 1349. We'll turn to Patient Delegate Young, House Bill 1342, Agriculture, Controlled Environment, and Hydroponic Agriculture.
I got one sponsor. He should be signed up. Sponsor panelists. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, colleagues. Delegate Kaylin Young, here for House Bill 1342, Agriculture, Controlled Environment, and Hydroponic Agriculture. The crux of this bill is very simple. We have food insecure neighborhoods, what used to be called food deserts, all throughout East Baltimore. I asked Delegate Stein to just lift up, down the street from where you work at Civic Works, we just had a food depot to close. That was a really big provide a lot of food, obviously, for that neighborhood. There's only one supermarket left, which is the ShopRite, which is going to be the only one from basically Bel Air Edison all the way down into Delegate Lewis's district, close to Patterson Park. And that whole swath, there's no fresh food availability anywhere. It's very hard for my residents to be able to get to fresh food. Consequently, we're looking for opportunities to be able to find and grow food right in the city. But also, I think that we have here, what I'm presenting today is an opportunity that, could help any farmer, but anybody in wherever they are, because of the opportunity of the new technology, which is not really new technology, but the technology of hydroponics. I'm specifically referring to, in my instance, hydroponic vertical towers, but there are different types of hydroponics. These towers are, if you just think about a street pole, maybe 6 feet tall. It's a water basin, PCV pipe with holes in it. And on the inside is a hollow pipe. On the inside is a tube that goes up with a water pump on the bottom, pumps up the water, and it rains the water down on the inside. The plants are basically on the wall. On the inside is the roots, and on the outside, the fruit of the plant grows. And what you find is that you can have 20, 30, 40 plants on one tower. So imagine 30, 40 heads of lettuce on one tower in a 2 by 2 foot square foot footprint. And just imagine the amount of food that therefore can be produced. The other thing about hydroponics is it just uses so much less, again, not only ground, but uses a lot less water, uses about 95% or more less water than traditional farming. There's just a lot of opportunity to be able to solve some of these challenges that we have in the district, but across the state when it comes to food security. So I want to just go over the bill really quickly. There are changes to the bill. The bill as drafted, I'm grateful to the drafter for the work that was done. But given just in my conversations with the Department of Agriculture, just want to make sure that we right-size the bill for something that's attainable immediately. And then we'll come back for some of the other pieces of the legislation that might, need a little bit more maturing. So I'll start real quickly. If you, on the first page of the bill, at the bottom, second page of the third page of the bill, on the bottom, you'll see where we are adding hydroponic controlled environment or hydroponic farmers to be eligible for the Urban Agriculture Water and Power Infrastructure Grant Fund. We want to keep that piece. So again, just adding hydroponic farmers to be able to get that money so we can build out these apparatus in Baltimore City or in other urban places. On the next page, there's a whole section about a portal, one-stop shop portal that we asked the department to create. In conversations with the department, we're going to be engaging with conversations with Bowie State University, who already have hydroponics working over there, to see if they might be the folks that can be the stewards of that one-stop shop. So there'll be an amendment coming with regard to that. Following that section is a whole section about a fund, a brand new fund that will be created with a $5 million appropriation. We're going to remove that from the legislation. That should clear up the vast majority of the fiscal note as well, because it's a shall appropriate. But we think that we need to start with something that's attainable, and that's going to be working with that first fund that I referenced earlier, and making sure we can get some folks access to that. Then as you move forward into page 6 and 7, there's a piece about workforce development. That's one of those places where we want to mature the conversations a little bit. So we're going to move that out and come back to it at a future state. And then lastly, and this is an important piece I want to make sure I lift up, this committee in the past set a goal that our institutions would be procuring 20% of the produce that they purchase, whether it's jails or schools. 20% would come from local farms. We know that we're nowhere near that goal. My understanding in talking to the Department of Agriculture is we might not even be at 5% of that goal. So part of the impetus of this legislation and what I think what we can do is help to achieve that goal by helping develop the infrastructure to achieve that goal. This also helps the business argument for the entities that I'm talking to that are looking at trying to engage in this work. So when you get to the bottom of that page on page 9, where you see where we asked for 1% by 2028, 3% by 2029, 5% by 2030 of this going to be towards hydroponics. We're amending that to just be 1% by 2030. We think that 1% is going to be enough. It's attainable, and it's a lot of money even still, especially as we're trying to engage with nonprofits and new enterprise. That 1% is still going to be enough money to really make the business case for them and, keep that money flowing in Maryland's economy, keep our money still here as opposed to shipping it out of state for that same produce. So with that being said, again, colleagues, I urge a favorable report. We're just trying to raise some food. We just want to feed folk. This is an opportunity that I think can help do that, while at the same time, we might be able to stand up some businesses and support some nonprofits that are also trying to do the same work. And one last piece is that I've also spoken to Maryland Food Bank, who has said, not committed it because we haven't set it all up yet, but they have given a soft commitment that as we build out these enterprises, they want to be first consumers from those enterprises. So again, just trying to bring everybody to the table, with the same goal of just feeding folk. And I'll pause there. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll urge favorable report.
Thank you, Delegate Young. Chair and committee, thank you for your time. My name is Keith Parker. I serve on the Maryland Agriculture Commission as a related services representative, and I represent Piedmont Harvest, a small business reserve, veteran-owned small business enterprise where we're focused on controlled environment architecture in Maryland. Think about it: leafy greens, vegetables, tomatoes, herbs, in modular indoor shelters. I want to start with this picture. There are communities across the state where families drive past vacant lots and empty warehouses every single day. On their way to buy food, they travel 500 miles to get to them. That land is there. The buildings are there. The need is absolutely there, but what's missing is a system that connects them all together. HB 1342 can build that system, and we are fully enthusiastically supportive of this bill. I've submitted detailed written testimony for this hearing, 7 specific recommendations grounded in both my commission work and Piedmont Harvest on-the-ground experience. I welcome your office's engagement with this. But here's a single idea I want to leave you with today. Maryland has decided that roads, water, and broadband are too important to leave to market forces. We fund them permanently because communities cannot function without them. We don't pilot a water system. Food is the same, and right now, this bill is written as a pilot. Pilot language tells agencies and every investor and every future legislator this is an experiment. One paragraph changes that. A legislative finding declaring that food production as an essential infrastructure, no fiscal cost, permanent impact. This one change, combined with the recommendations in our written testimony, transformed this bill from a good grant program into a historic policy foundation. Maryland has the opportunity to be the first state to formally declare that food production is public infrastructure. This is a legacy worth claiming. Our testimony makes the full case. I welcome your office's reaction after this hearing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a question from Delegate Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Delegate Young, for bringing this bill. I had not thought about hydroponic farming as a partial solution to food shortages and food deserts. But you also mentioned that, or somewhere in the testimony or letters of, witness letters, is the assertion that this is a potential workforce stimulus as well, creating new workers in a new type of farming. So I just wondered if you could talk a little bit more about that. Would there be, do you envision workforce training? Do you envision building on existing training? What does that look like?
Yeah, well, first off, I mentioned it also in my testimony. That
you did, that's where I heard it.
We might be pulling that piece out for now just because of maturing that, apparatus and getting to that point. We need to get enterprise up before we turn around and do the workforce piece. But that being said, the goal ultimately would be that we are training folks in the city or elsewhere to be able to achieve or maintain these vertical farms. And so, that includes, first off, the build out. Folks have to actually put the apparatus together and build them out. And then there's obviously maintenance of them. There's, the farmers themselves who have to do the growing. So there's the whole, piece about, managing the actual produce, right? And how does that go? That's his expertise. So let me pass it to my witness who can really talk more about, the specifics of what that looks like as well.
Specific workforce. Actually, before we do that, if it's okay, I want to pose another question, and that has to do with existing small farms, particularly urban farms. We have a number of great urban farms in Baltimore City. They're using, surface area, land, and soil. Did you envision leveraging hydroponic farming approaches with our existing farms? You're thinking facilitating the setup of new initiatives?
Yeah, I mean, and so exactly that. It would be supplementing what they already have. So, I think about in my district, we've got 6 Branch over in Oliver. We've got the folks on Mirror Street, the folks over on Collinson Square. These locations have raised beds. The 6 Branch one is a little bit larger. They've got like a mini greenhouse. It's not a huge greenhouse, but it's, it's covered and it's got a lot of different produce. Then they give out food every week. But what we know is that if we were to implement some hydroponics, that would just increase their capacity. 6 Branch is super, engaged, and those are the probably primary folks that I would be engaging with in East Baltimore to achieve that. But we would, be open to engaging with more. We have been in our conversations with the Department of Agriculture. I don't know if you were there. I think you were there when they did the tour.
Yeah, it was.
During the interim, right? And so, we got to meet a lot of farmers in the city during that tour. And so I had a lot of conversations, and so it wouldn't just be limited, obviously, to the folks I know, but a lot of folks on that list, and the department has been gracious enough to share that list with us, and we've been reaching out to folks and talking to them. So as we build it out, we want all of them to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank
you,
Mr. Chair.
Can I let my witness jump in on that last question real quick?
I'll let the chair.
Is it okay if we let Delegate Fraser Hidalgo ask his question? It may be similar.
Absolutely, sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I've seen a couple of these in action, and there is a church in District 20 in Tacoma Park that does a lot of this. They have a whole basement. So my question to you is, because I always have to say something like, isn't that so? Right? That's really, really cool. Isn't that so?
It is so. Yes, it is.
Thank you so much for that question, Delegate. All right. Seeing no more questions for this panel.
Madam Vice Chair, I did want to, I don't mean to press.
Is there more information that you needed from your question, Delegate Lewis?
Yes, I was interested in workforce. Okay. If they're quickly. Workforce only, quickly.
Absolutely. So workforce development, we're working on some initiatives right now in Prince George's County, working with our District 8, where we're going to bring workforce development and as well some of the returning citizens into a curriculum with Prince George's County Community College. And therefore, when we can bring our own community in to help grow our own food, it also reduces recidivism and things in the community, and it helps the links with the community. And also there's an education program that's uniquely tied in with the middle school and the high school system.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Now, seeing no more questions, that ends the hearing on House Bill 1342. We will move on to House Bill 1354. Delegate Hornberger, State Boards of Veterinary Medical Examiners, Veterinarians, Veterinary Technicians, and Veterinary Assistants. Welcome to the committee, sir.
Hey, good to be back. Happy Friday, everyone. For the record, Delegate Kevin Hornberger, here on behalf of HB 1354, State Board of Veterinarian Medical Examiners, Veterinarians, Veterinary Technicians, and Veterinarian Assistants. So I'm going to first jump into why do we need this bill, and then talk about what the bill does. So you all know I'm here from Cecil County, and we have lots of farm. We're actually the #1 county in the state of horse per capita. So a lot of large mammals that need routine veterinarian services. Currently, nationwide, there's a veterinarian shortage. So this bill seeks to do a couple things. One, it sets up a reciprocity agreement. So if vets want to come from Delaware, that maybe work in a chicken house, come over to Maryland, they can do so and carry licensure in both states. That's part one. Part two is the bill seeks to have the board, not necessarily us or any other actors, but have the board come up with a pathway for matriculation to be able to go from a veterinarian assistant to a veterinarian technician. Now, originally as written, the bill also sought to have them form a pathway to go from veterinarian technician to a full-blown vet. However, there was a lot of pushback from that community and saying that basically there's degree requirements, there's testing, and that was just too big of a gap to make that leap. So what we've done is we've actually gotten an amendment based on that feedback that you all find in your email there that takes that pathway between technician and veterinarian out, and it substitutes in language that compels them to come up with a tuition assistant program and address specifically the type 2 shortage, which is where we have the biggest deficit of providers. Now, why the tuition assistant? The other feedback that we got from this group is that currently the cost of getting a veterinarian degree program and passing the exam and getting licensures is such that this industry doesn't pay enough for them to be able to pay back those student loans and to also have a family and live in the community. So this is a very expensive degree program. We've also contacted University of Maryland of the Eastern Shore, which they're currently constructing a building, and this is one of going to be the purposes of that is to provide veterinarian training. But Department of Ag worked this with us on well. I think they've got a letter of clarity in there for you. But again, major problem. We think this is a good faith effort to try to solve it and get the board more engaged on how to get folks the ability to matriculate. With that, I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you very much. We have a question from Vice Chair Guyton.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for bringing this bill. I've worked with the veterinarians for a while now, including making sure that they and their technicians could be included in our loan assistance programs over the last couple of years. So, they do have those options. Just I don't know if you're aware of some of that tuition assistance program that is available to them. I'm glad you took the other part out of the bill. I saw, concerned testimonies from both from both our Veterinary Medical Association and the Department of Ag on that. I think there is quite a jump between technicians and going to become a veterinary doctor, and the work that they do for experiential work there is very different and included in their program. So that's a great move. Thank you for that. Generally, I am not a huge fan of compact bills, and I see that's kind of what you're setting up here. In that, when it comes to veterinarians themselves, I don't have as much of an issue because the training across state lines is very similar. When it comes to veterinary technicians, however, I think the expectations, the trainings, and the scope of practice between one state and another state is very different, because I've set up some of those myself for Maryland. And so my concern would be, if moving forward with that part, that you would ensure that any folks who were part of that compact and could come into the state and work, which I do agree there's a problem, right? And we need to encourage more, do have the commensurate training that someone in Maryland would already have as well. So that, is that something that you've looked at all?
Yeah, so that's why we specifically directed the board to come up with that, as opposed. Yeah, so instead of labor or one of these outside groups, my understanding, and I'm not as well versed as you are on these matters, but this board is a little bit different, whereas you don't have the commissioner and all these other groups weighing in on it. It's more localized within that board. So that's why it directs them to come up with their own licensure compact and reciprocity, as opposed to another outside group within state government.
All right, thank you so much for that.
Yep.
Any additional questions? Okay, thank you. That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1354. Have a great weekend, Delegate. We will turn to House Bill 974, Delegate Chisholm, Freedom from Monopolies Act. If you have a panel, please bring them up.
Stay for my other bill.
Oh, I'm sorry. For some reason, I thought you already did that. I apologize. No weekend for you. We will turn to House Bill 1412, Delegate Hornberger, Natural Resources, Crabs, Requirements, and Prohibited Acts.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Second bite at the apple. Delegate Kevin Hornberger here for House Bill 1412, and a very unique title, Natural Resources, Crabs, Requirements, and Prohibited Acts. Okay. Why do we need this bill? We had identified through multiple vendors, seafood vendors and seafood dealers in Cecil County, a problem. And after sharing this with both Department of Health as well as DNR, we quickly realized that this was actually a statewide problem, not unique to Cecil County. And the issue that we're trying to resolve here is that currently there are different licensures with DNR and also with Department of Health where you can buy and sell seafood. You can do so as uncooked seafood, and you can do so as cooked seafood. And unfortunately, there's some gray areas in between. So what happens in Cecil County, as well as the other state, is we have folks that through a variety of ways are acquisitioning live crabs, and then they are selling those live crabs on the side of the road, out of a parking lot, out of their pickup truck. And they don't meet any health standards, and they don't carry licensure from the Department of Health or any certificates. When they are approached, they hold up what is issued by the DNR as a seafood dealer's license. And they say, well, I believe that this license gives me the ability to sell these crabs any way that I want them. And because they're cooked, the Department of Health gets involved, and the only teeth that the Department of Health have is revocation of your health certificate. Well, these folks don't have a health certificate. That's why they're selling out of their truck. So these folks are exploiting a loophole, whereas the DNR shows up and says, I don't have jurisdiction here because the crabs are cooked. I only have jurisdiction over live crabs. And Department of Health is saying, well, I don't have jurisdiction here because you don't have a license. So what we, after going around back and forth, and you're going to see the amendment in your email pack, what we came up with as the best solution for this is that there already exists language with the DNR that deals with oysters, because as you know, oysters are also categorized and managed at the federal level. So the suggestion that the DNR came up with, and they actually offered in this amendment, was to move crabs into the same posture as oysters and to institute penalties if you're selling the cooked crabs without Department of Health license and certificate, that you would get a fine on the first offense. And on the second offense, this is the real teeth here, that you would lose your ability to commercially catch crabs. So there'd be license revocation on the second offense. So that was their recommendation. I think it's common sense. And just bringing up my phone here, you'll see that in the email, the title, that's the TFL license that would be suspended if you're found guilty twice. So with that, we also worked with Commercial Fisher, who we have here on the Zoom. I'd love to take any questions.
Great. Why don't we take Mr. Mortis first? Mr. Mortis, Maryland Watermen's Association, please go ahead when you're ready, sir.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Chairman, committee members, my name is Timothy Mortis. I'm second vice president of the Maryland Watermen's Association, and I'm also a licensed. I own a crab house in Aberdeen, which is not far from Cecil County, where the problems went down 2 years ago to get this started. The people going with part-time jobs that are going on the weekends and catching crabs and whatnot, and then selling them out of the back of their pickup truck because of the gray area that was involved with this seafood marketing thing that we pay on our license. I try not to let it bother me, but it is an annoyance. You get somebody that'll come into your crab house and, God, these prices are ridiculous. There's somebody selling them on Facebook for such and such less. Yeah, sure. They're at their house. They're cooking them in their garage. Do they have a $2,500 mortgage like I do on my building that I run my crab house out of? No, they don't. So, I mean, you know, this is a problem, and we'd like this looped in just like it's written in the state law with the oysters. Is, you know, we think this would be the simplest way to eliminate this problem without having to get multiple agencies involved. This way, you know, if they're caught, we'll make it so you can't catch crabs. It's just as simple as that. And hopefully this will, you know, if these people want to keep doing it, get your own building, get licensed, and there is no problem. But doing it this way, I mean, it has become a problem. And we'd like a favorable outcome on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Delegate Jacobs.
Thank you. So this could be for Tim Mortis or Kevin or both. But isn't it true you need a food service license in order to sell seafood?
That is accurate.
If you're a business selling seafood, you need a food service license, I think.
Yeah,
Is
so,
that correct?
yeah, the biggest concern here is that these folks don't have hand washing, refrigeration, all of the things that you need to serve prepared food.
So they wouldn't have a food service license is my question, right?
Well, currently they do not.
That's what I'm saying.
Yep. And
the health department requires you to have a food service license, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, so what the health department is telling us that they're going out to these individuals and they're basically, the only recourse they have is to tell them, you can't do that. They can take them to circuit court, but the resources that are involved in that are such that they don't have the ability to hire an attorney to go to, because they don't have enforcement powers. That's why this amendment, the bill is amended, would be so effective, because DNR does. DNR does have police force. DNR does have the ability to do all this if we pass the bill.
Thank you.
Additional questions, Delegate Anderson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Delegate Hornberger. How long would their license be revoked if they were caught the second time?
It's a suspension is what it's outlined in the amendment, to be determined by the DNR. So my guess would be about a year.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Delegate Odom.
How you doing, Delegate?
Happy Friday.
And I'm trying to make sure I understand accurately. The health department, I think I understood you to say, cannot enforce this because the individuals that are selling out of their trucks have no license.
That's accurate.
And they don't have, and the real issue, I think, as you pointed out, is they don't have running water, they don't have all the health safety factors.
Yep.
So now, a person who does have a license, that has a facility that sells those things, I know from time to time, some things may happen, their water may be cut off, and I'm not saying this is a prominent issue, but in those cases, if the health department comes along, they can be cited.
That's accurate, yep.
So I guess I need to ask, I did ask a question, right?
No, that's a great question. The person there that's run afoul of their standards would get a fine, could possibly get their certificate of health revoked, wouldn't be able to operate anymore. I think you're probably describing like a food truck vendor, for example, or a portable or catering operation. Those, for the most part, are good actors, and they have health department certificates. They're subject to annual inspection. Someone gets sick or someone files a complaint, there's a process there. These folks that are doing out of the side of the road aren't participating in any of that. And something that we kind of left off, this also applies to undersized crabs. If you catch an undersized crab currently and you get it to a point where it's cooked without being caught by the DNR, DNR doesn't have jurisdiction. So that's another, I think, benefit of this bill is that this will curtail people selling undersized crabs as well, dead crabs, all of these things that are of significant health concerns.
Thank you.
Delegate Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You had mentioned first offense a fine, but I didn't hear you talk about the amount of the fine.
Yeah, I think that's to be determined by the DNR, so we didn't specify that
So
in the
do they have a
amendment.
fine for oysters?
Can I answer this question?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, there are, the whole oyster side of this is already documented. I'm not exactly sure what the fine is or how long of the suspension and all that is. But
You're not talking $1,000, something like that?
No. If
so.
what we're going to do, if this is passed at DNR at the next penalty work group meeting, if this is passed, we were going to discuss this, and then DNR will add all the rest of this through Commerce.
Okay. For me, I'd like to know an approximate amount of a fine. Thank you.
Okay, I believe the Vice Chair has authorized me to now wish you a good weekend.
Have a wonderful weekend,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you so
That
much.
concludes Bill hearing on House Bill 1412. We'll turn to a very patient Delegate Chisholm, House Bill 974, Freedom from Monopolies Act.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair. I have a milestone moment in the Chisholm household. I think that this committee would be interesting to hear. My son just texted me. He bought his first Tesla Model X long range. I know that Elon's kind of fallen out of favor, but it's still a step forward for the Chisholm family. Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair and ENT Committee, I'm here to present HB 974, which is the restore. I know that. Okay. It is to address a problem that I'm sure all of your offices have heard about, and it's also a bipartisan issue. I know that there's a bill that was filed in the Senate that is closely mirrored to this bill, and it's to bring back retail energy choice. If you all remember when we passed the SB1, I did stand on the floor and I said, are you concerned this is going to create a monopoly? And I was told, no, only for the bad actors. And I am not denying there was probably a lot of bad actors out there. But essentially what we did was we created a monopoly. And I think everybody has had somebody in your constituent circles call you, email you, talk to you, leave you a voicemail saying, I have lost my choice. Here's just a little picture of, we had 278 different retail energy companies before SB1 passed. We now have 0. That is indeed a monopoly. I understand wanting to keep the consumer protections in place. I worked hard with the amendment office and trying to make sure that we kept all of the consumer protections to make sure we were doing our due diligence so that people weren't being taken advantage of, but also do it in a way that we could bring back retail choice. There were a lot of people that chose different companies for different reasons, whether it be contract or locking in a rate. There were a lot of people that just favored having renewable energy, and we pushed all of that out. Now nobody has a choice at all, and I'm hopeful that this bill will reinstate some of those retail energy companies so that people do have real retail choice. As far as the consumer protection, I'm just going to list real quick. I know it's Friday afternoon. In my bill, after it was amended, now there are some people that were in opposition of the bill. I heavily amended this bill and tried to meet everybody's concerns. I think I've done that for the most part, but it's a clear written disclosure of contract terms, a standard energy facts label so customers can easily compare plans, a 10-day right of rescission allowing consumers to cancel enrollment after a penalty, stronger anti-slamming protections. That's when somebody signs you up but doesn't tell you that they're actually changing who your retail supply is coming from. So we make sure we put that back into the bill. Strict rules prohibiting suppliers from impersonating utilities. Data privacy protections, preventing the sale of customer usage data without consent, safeguards for low-income customers, and protections if a supplier exits the market. I think that's probably one of my biggest concerns, make sure that we're protecting low-income people. Those seem to be the people that we're taking advantage of. We want to make sure we continue that protection, but once again, bring more competition back in. You know, monopolies are bad, and we all know that. I don't know if people would be as mad now if they still had retail choice, but what has happened is everybody's bills have skyrocketed, and they're like, well, if I had choice, it wouldn't have gone up this much. Whether that's true or not, but it is definitely the case in the state of Maryland now. Everybody's pointing fingers every different direction. With that, I'm just going to cut it short because I know time is of the essence. I'm willing to answer any questions, and with that, I'm just would like to turn it over to my panel, whoever's first.
I can go first. Okay, my name is Amy York. I am the founder and owner of Paramount Energy Services. We're a small woman-owned business, an energy advisory firm that's based in Maryland and Harford County. We specialize in PJM electric wholesale markets and wholesale and retail natural gas markets on both load and generation sides of the market. In 2024, we submitted comments opposing Senate Bill 1 with respect to its inclusion of the commercial industrial clients. It's the heart of my business. Those rate classes were carved out. Now, as a residential user of electricity, I have no choice for third-party supply. As a result, it costs me $1,200 more per year for my electricity cost. That's probably about an average household increase. And given that now Polar, the provider of last resort, is the only option, there are more than 2 million residential clients in Maryland. That generates additional annual income of around $2.4 billion for the utilities in this state. Our suggestion for an amendment to this bill is that purchase of receivables be added back into customer choice. That POR provision allows all customers to choose their supplier regardless of their income and gives third-party suppliers the ability to cover their losses, not just the Polar provider. Not including purchase of receivables is anti-competitive, provides the Polar supplier an advantage over third-party suppliers. We support free markets. We advocate the termination of any regulations that prevent that occurrence. For these reasons, we support this bill with amendments mentioned here and in our written testimony that's been filed. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Bert Wilson of Energy Artisans. I have 35 years of energy experience, starting at BG&E, and for the past 25 years as an independent. We manage purchase and sales of energy for large commercial industrial customers and power generation. Also have owned a 20,000 customer retail energy supplier from 2010 to 2013. I'm familiar with the issues of customer protection intimately. We support the HB 974 with amendments as suggested in our written testimony. Price and term limits have no place in a free market, and we are a free state. So they remove supply choices from the market, as happened. My home contract that I had for 5 years, starting in October 23 at $105 a megawatt hour, was canceled because of the restrictions of SB 1 in 2024. This left me with a new Polar rate of $165 a megawatt hour that will cost me $1,500 a year for the next 3 years. This is zero customer protection. And imagine this multiplied over a million customers. According to the testimony in the House, quote, SOS rates are known for 24 months. That's patently false. The SOS rate has increased 60% in 1 year. Notably, BG&E does earn a return on SOS service, so has some motivation to have SOS rates. Maryland should support removal of supply restrictions and term limits. Sales agent responsibility is important. It's paramount. Customer protection should resolve around fair presentation of offers and clear contracts, not arbitrary price limits. We support the changes to make those restrictions on sales agents more stringent, similar to securities law, and hope that you amend this bill and we're favorably inclined. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions for the sponsor or his panel? Delegate, Vice Chair Guyton.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Thank you for bringing this bill. I also appreciate the intent of this legislation. I think that we are hearing a lot from constituents who lost service that they were very happy with under SB 1. And in principle, I think this is a really good idea. I would like some of it. I haven't had a chance to study, but I would love for you to address. I'm hoping you've had the chance to read the letter that we have from the PSC and their concerns about how this bill would affect not only their, the scope of what they do, but also their funding significantly. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, their funding, and I'll be honest with you, this amendment just came back in last night. I know it gets cut from 0.5 to 0.25. The OPCs actually goes back to what they were getting. And I think the PSC now goes to 0.375, so they're losing 0.125. I'm always open to amendment to understand why the PSC wanted the money so they could train a lot of the salesmen, from what I understand, and put new educational things in place. If that's not the big holdup for me, obviously, the funding, I would be open to amending it back to 0.5 rather than the 0.375. I don't know exactly what it does. Meaning I don't know the scope of what the PSC is using that funding for other than educational purposes and being kind of that final watchdog. One of the things I didn't mention is, I'm glad you brought it up. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. 303,000 people lost choice, and that's a good portion of the state. I wish I had a better answer for you on the PSC part, but I do know, the bill in the Senate, I spoke to Senator Guile. I'm open to amend it to just bring back more choice. And if we can meet a striking balance where everybody's happy, I'd be happy with it.
Delegate Chisholm, I know I appreciate that you are pro-choice. Delegate Frazier-Hidalgo?
Thank you. Just to follow up with your statement about Senator Guile and SB 749, have you had substantive conversations with her? Because she had this bill hearing, I think, very early this week or last week. Are you guys comparing notes? Are you working together? Can you tell me something about that?
Yeah, we were texting it, and I watched her testimony. I did not watch her panel, and I think she said she's not an expert on this as far as all the different components, but yes, we spoke about it. Truth be told, we talked about it early on, and I was like, I don't know if you want me to cross-file a bill for you, to be honest with you. I'm like, how things work out.
I would just encourage you to reach out to her and kind of, get some kind of updates as to where her bill is. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Great. We have a virtual witness, Paul Arcand. Favorable?
Hey, thank you, Chairman. I hope you can hear me okay. Am I good?
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
All right. I appreciate giving me this opportunity to come in via Zoom. Of course, I'm Pastor Paul Arcand, and I represent the Lighthouse Baptist Church in Severna Park, Maryland. And I'm not here as a utility expert. I'm here as a shepherd of people. And of course, over the past few years, our church's energy bill has climbed dramatically. But though that burdens me, that's not what ultimately burdens me. The heaviest burden that we carry is seeing what's happening in our community. The calls for help with BGE bills have surged. I mean, we have, seniors on fixed incomes, young families, many single mothers trying to make it, and even, fellas that are trying to lead families have never asked for assistance before. And when energy costs rise in an unchecked way, churches become a shock absorber for it. And we're the ones who open up our benevolence fund. We write the checks. We pray with families who are choosing between heat and groceries. And of course, I know their BG&E can't be turned off, but that bill backs up and backs up and backs up. And then they call us when it is getting turned off, and we're talking $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 bills that we're trying to help families get through. It's not sustainable. And from a biblical perspective, concentrated economic power that burdens ordinary people raises severe moral concerns. And Scripture teaches us that fairness in measures and mercy toward the vulnerable. I mean, Proverbs 14:31 says, "He that oppresseth the poor reproacheth his maker." And energy is not a luxury in Maryland, it's a necessity. And when competition is stifled, consumers have little meaningful choice. And I know I'm done with time, but I would just ask you on behalf of Lighthouse Baptist Church to give this HB 974 a favorable report. Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate your fairness and decency all the time. Bless you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any additional questions? Okay, we do have virtual unfavorable testimony from Laurel Peltier, Maryland Energy Advocates Coalition. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair Corman, Vice Chair Guyton, members of the committee. I'm Laurel Peltier. I'm a proud AARP Maryland volunteer, and I also chair Maryland Energy Advocates. We are ratepayer advocates for low income. And I don't know if many on this committee know, but this is a topic I worked on since 2016 very, very hard. I was reporting on energy in Baltimore, and I uncovered predatory and sky-high energy rates charged by then more than 45 suppliers. I've devoted my volunteer time to reforming this broken market, and I just want you to know that in 2024, across the United States, in the other 12 states, $4 billion in overpayments were extracted from 11.5 million families. Now, it did come at a tough time, in the sense that energy rates rose, especially electricity supply rates. But I want you to know that 2024's SB1 was successful, and that is not widely known. About $200 million since the bill was passed has been saved. And what I want to share, that I really do hear that some savvy shoppers were on good contracts. But what appears to be happening, and what happened, is that so many families were overpaying. They were subsidizing the few savers. And this is supported by data, especially out of the Berkeley report that looked at 3 years of BG&E rates. So I was on the panel for SB 749. There is a good idea in there to drop the trailing 12-month average. But this bill really guts a lot of the consumer protections. And I have always shared that I will be at the table because I really want people to be able to afford their energy bills. This is my work. This is what I do. But SB1 was successful. So I appreciate your time, and we're unfavorable on HB 974.
Okay, thank you very much. I do not see any questions, so that concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 974 and all the bill hearings for today. Subcommittee announcements, Chair Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Motor Vehicle and Transportation Subcommittee will meet on Monday, March 9th at 3:30. I just want to note that this is an extra meeting. We're trying to front load some bill review, some bill work sessions, so we don't get as bogged down later. So stay tuned for updates. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a reminder to be prepared for multiple subcommittees to meet multiple times next week, multiple voting sessions, very long days. Please plan accordingly and try to get some rest this weekend. Thanks, everybody.